Good afternoon, everyone. I'm calling to order this meeting of the Council of the Town of Oakville. I invite everyone to rise and join Council in the singing of O Canada.
Which we're going to change.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. As we meet, we acknowledge that we're meeting on treaty lands rich in traditions of First Nations, and we appreciate the stewardship of the Mississaugas of the Credit. Madam Clerk, we have regrets from Councillor Duddock and from Councillor Robinson that I know of. Do you have any others?
That's it.
All right. The others will join us in progress. Council, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Madam Clerk, I see none. Council, would you like to confirm the minutes of the previous council meetings as listed in the agenda? Councillor Giddings and Councillor Chisholm, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? The minutes are confirmed. I'm not aware of any delegations registered for this meeting, and you aren't either. You have the standing committee report from the Budget Committee. We need a, let's see here. We need a motion to receive and approve. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Councillor Adams provides the motion. Councillor Hutchins provides the second. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Now, Council, we have two confidential consent items, and consent means that no controversy or discussion was anticipated. Now we find out if we have a mover and seconder for the consent items, confidential consent items. Councillor Knoll and seconded by Councillor Adams. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Now we come to the first discussion item, and that's the update on legalization and regulation of marijuana. And if you give your attention to Nadia Chandra from the legal department, she can synopsize for the public what you've read in your reports. Ms. Chandra, we're looking forward to your information.
On April 13th, 2017, Bill C-45 was tabled by the federal government. It received first reading in the House of Commons, and it has been referred to the Standing Committee on Health. Bill C-45 proposes legislation for legal access to cannabis for non-medical purposes and to control and regulate its production, distribution, and sale by enacting the Cannabis Act. The stated key objectives of the Act are to prevent young persons from accessing cannabis, protect public health and safety, and reduce the burden on the criminal justice system by removing many cannabis-related violations. Bill C-45 would leave the medical cannabis system unchanged, so anyone with a doctor's authorization could order from a federally licensed producer and receive product by mail. The Cannabis Act is largely informed by the recommendations contained in a report from the Task Force on Cannabis Legalization and Regulation which was published in December of 2016, containing over 80 recommendations. One of the key task force recommendations was that the retail sales be regulated by provinces in close collaboration with municipalities, including limits on density and location of storefronts, such as distance from schools, community centers, and public parks. If approved by Parliament, the bill could become law with a target date of no later than July of 2018. Cannabis will remain illegal while the bill moves through the legislative process. Although the federal government has introduced the legislation to legalize access, no details have been provided on how it will be regulated by the various levels of government. Because of this, in February of 2017, staff from municipal enforcement, planning, and legal held an information sharing session with other municipalities. Should the act become law, on July 1st, 2018, adults who are 18 years or older would legally be able to possess or share up to 30 grams of cannabis, purchase cannabis from a provincially licensed retailer. In those provinces that have not yet or choose not to put in place a regulated retail framework, individuals would be able to purchase cannabis online from a federally licensed producer. Individuals could also home grow up to 4 plants per household, and they could also make products such as food or drinks at home. At present, possessing and selling marijuana for non-medical purposes is still illegal everywhere in Canada. Storefront operations selling marijuana, commonly known as dispensaries or compassion clubs, are not licensed by Health Canada. Some municipalities, such as Toronto and Vancouver, have seen an increase in the prevalence of these illegal marijuana dispensaries. Concerns have been raised over these businesses operating in close proximity to sensitive land uses and each other. The proposed Cannabis Act does not outline conditions or requirements for provinces as to the types of retail outlets, retail model, or distribution system. The province now has approximately 12 months to form their own legislation and regulations. No decisions have been made by the province, and they are considering the full range of options, which may include a provincial control model, private businesses licensed by the province, or a mixed model. The federal government's key responsibilities would be to set requirements for producers who grow and manufacture cannabis, and to set industry-wide rules and standards such as types of products allowed for sale, packaging and labeling, as well as advertising. Provinces would license and oversee the distribution and sale of cannabis, and they could also increase the minimum age but not lower it, lower the personal possession limit, create additional rules for home grows, restrict where adults can consume. The Cannabis Act proposes that provinces may also set additional restrictions such as zoning, but input from municipalities is necessary to address local concerns. Town staff from Legal and Enforcement Services are currently participating in the AMO Marijuana Legalization Task Force. AMO is calling for municipal licensing of growers as well as retailers of marijuana to control where these businesses are located and to limit their concentration. However, AMO's approach would require significant new municipal resources. If municipalities are tasked with regulating storefront marijuana businesses, regulations would need to consider issues such as nuisance from odors affecting neighboring businesses or other residents, safety of patrons, as well as enforcement staff, security, location, and possibly caps on the number of these businesses. Revenue sharing with municipalities could assist in offsetting additional costs, but again, local issues arising from marijuana legalization will require consultation and coordination with a number of town departments, and staff is concerned that the review, consultation, and approval process required for municipal zoning and licensing regulations would not be possible to implement by July of 2018. In May, the Toronto Public Health released a report that recommends a provincially controlled agency be established for the retail sale and distribution of non-medical cannabis, separate from that of alcohol, to provide for the retail sale and distribution. Staff are in agreement with that report and similarly recommend that primary consideration should be given to the creation of a provincial enterprise. The recommendation is that Council pass the resolution contained in Schedule A of the report. The proposed resolution supports clear information sharing between the different levels of government to clarify roles and responsibilities, coordination of enforcement, primary consideration be given to the creation of a provincial enterprise established to manage the sale and distribution of marijuana in Ontario, providing municipalities with adequate time to align and integrate regional and local regulations and practices with the new federal and provincial laws, and that careful consideration be given to the ability to regulate the personal production of marijuana and marijuana-based products, and any additional cost to municipalities of enforcing marijuana legalization be recognized and addressed, as well that the Council's resolution be forwarded to various stakeholders.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Are there questions, Council? Is there a motion? Councillor O'Meara. Thank you. Is there a second? Councillor Grant. Discussion? All in favor? That's carried. The next item for discussion is item number 2, the Bill 139, Building Better Communities and Conserving Watersheds Act 2017 report from the Legal Department. I'm just waiting for Diane to get in place. Everything's ready for you?
Thank you. It's actually legal and planning staff.
Oh, a double hitter. All right.
On May 30th, 2017, the province introduced Bill 139. The bill, known as the Building Better Communities and Conserving Watersheds Act, is primarily the result of an extensive public consultation initiated by the province in 2016 to review the scope and effectiveness of the Ontario Municipal Board. The town participated in the consultation and provided a submission containing recommendations endorsed by Council. Bill 139 would significantly overhaul the manner in which local planning decisions are reviewed in Ontario, placing greater authority in the hands of municipal councils.
Bill 139 also proposes amendments to the Conservation Authorities Act, which are the result of a comprehensive review initiated by the province on July 20th, 2015. The proposed amendments are intended to strengthen and clarify the framework of governance, funding, program and services, and roles and responsibilities for conservation authorities and their provincial and municipal partners.
There are 5 main schedules contained in the bill: the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal Act, the Local Planning Appeal Support Center Act, various Planning Act amendments, amendments to the Conservation Authorities Act, and consequential amendments due to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal Act. The OMB would continue under the name Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, but with a very different standard of review. Hearing de novos would effectively be eliminated for many appeals. This was a key submission made by the town and many other municipalities. Bill 139, under Bill 139, the tribunal would have a new standard of review restricted to consistency with provincial plans, conformity with provincial policy statements, and upper-tier official plans. The tribunal also could not change council's decision on an appeal in the first instance. It would have to send the matter back to council for a decision. Second decision.
A local planning appeal support center would be established to provide the public with free advice on the appeal process. The tribunal would be directed to streamline hearings through things such as mandatory case management conferences and strict hearing timelines to be set out in regulations to come. Bill 139 would exempt a broad range of municipal land use planning decisions from appeal to the tribunal, which were previously appealable to the OMB. For instance, only the minister would be able to appeal an interim control bylaw when it is first passed. Prohibiting appeals on an interim control bylaw will provide a municipality sufficient time to study an area and make a more informed planning decision.
Bill 139 proposes that the tribunal's authority to review appeals regarding the adoption or approval of official plan or zoning bylaws or amendments thereto would be restricted to issues of consistency with provincial policy statements, conformity with provincial plans, and applicable upper-tier official plans. Excuse me. Similar amendments are proposed with respect to appeals related to requests to amend official plans or zoning bylaws. Specifically, such applications could only be appealed on the basis that 1, the existing part of the official plan or zoning bylaw is inconsistent with a provincial policy statement, fails to conform with or conflicts with a provincial plan or an applicable upper-tier municipality's official plan, and 2, the proposed amendment meets that same consistency and conformity test. These limits on the tribunal's standard of review would strengthen the decision-making authority of municipal councils. This could result in greater consistency and predictability in planning decisions, as the tribunal would not simply be able to substitute its view for that of council.
The new standard of review may also assist in the implementation of an approved official plan and zoning bylaw by allowing them to operate with greater stability by requiring applicants to demonstrate how the existing part of the official plan or zoning bylaw is inconsistent with a provincial policy statement or fails to conform with or conflicts with a provincial plan or fails and conforms with the upper tier municipality's official plan. Timelines are proposed to be extended by 30 days for council to make a decision, which affords greater opportunity for more informed planning decisions.
The bill further proposes that where an appeal is allowed by the tribunal on the basis of the test for consistency or conformity, the tribunal would be required to return the matter to municipal council with written reasons. The municipality would then have 90 days to make a second decision. If that second decision is appealed, the tribunal could make another decision, but again, only in accordance with the test for consistency or conformity. The ministry has provided a summary of the hearing process, which would incorporate mandatory case conferences, as well as the 2-round appeal system. Bill 139 proposes a number of changes to the practices and procedures applicable to the tribunal proceedings that would greatly assist in streamlining processes and could result in potential cost savings for municipalities, including a mandatory case conference to identify issues and discuss opportunities for settlement and the potential use of mediation. There would be no examination or cross-examination of witnesses at the oral hearing. Oral submissions by parties at the hearing would also be limited by timelines to be provided under regulations.
Regulations would be introduced to provide for transitioning of proceedings already commenced. The City of Toronto recently adopted a motion requesting that the province ensure that the legislation contains provisions limiting the transition period so that any application made after first reading be subject to the new legislation. Staff supports this and recommends the town similarly advocate for a limited transition. Bill 139 also establishes the Local Planning Appeal Support Centre, a new provincial agency to provide support services by eligible persons respecting matters governed by the Planning Act, and that under the jurisdiction of the tribunal. The support centre could assist in providing greater access for meaningful public participation in the appeal process. Switching gears, proposed amendments to the Conservation Authorities Act include strengthening oversights and accountability in Conservation Authority decision-making, increasing clarity and consistency in programs and services, as well as regulatory requirements, improving collaboration and engagement, and modernizing funding mechanisms to support Conservation Authority operations. Staff are reviewing application processes procedures to align with the proposed new timelines. Additionally, report writing for content of the reports is being reviewed to ensure that there is sufficient information in the event that matters proceed solely in writing or at an oral hearing without any examination of witnesses.
The town's proposed submissions to the province can be summarized as the town supports and encourages the province to enact Bill 139. Eliminating de novo hearings is an essential change to improving the land use planning appeal system. Limits on the tribunal's standard of review would better reflect and validate the work that municipalities do in developing land use policy for their communities.
The Local Planning Appeal Support Centre could facilitate enhanced participation of residents. The province should limit the transition period so that applications made after first reading be subject to Bill 139. And the town generally supports the province's proposed changes to the Conservation Authorities Act. If passed, Bill 139 would better reflect and validate the extensive work that municipalities do in developing land use policies, while balancing the need for a review process to ensure the principles of natural justice to property owners.
In the fall, if the bill passes second reading and is referred to a standing committee, there may be opportunities to make submissions. Staff recommend that council authorize the mayor and staff to make submissions to the standing committee in support of Bill 139, which may include coordination of submissions with other municipalities, and that comments be provided through the submission of this report.
Thank you, I think. That was it?
That's it.
All right. Councillor Elgar.
Thanks very much for the presentation. I guess what's really important here is the transitioning phase, and it has to roll back to, you're hoping, and May 30th is what we're hoping it rolls back on to. So that would mean any applications that were deemed complete after that date would be subject to the new rules, correct?
That is the request, yes.
Has the province given any indication at all that they will in fact do that and have it at first reading instead of sometime next year? Because I think it will not get approved until sometime in 2018 is from what I understand.
Through you, Mayor Burton, there has been no information provided by the province on the proposed transition. There's nothing contained in the bill that deals with transition.
Yeah, I guess that's the worry we all have with anything, how it could be phased in. Now, do you see any inconsistencies here with the PPS? You know, if you read the PPS, it kind of sucks and blows at the same time. Can you think of any place where that could hurt us?
Through your worship to Councillor Elgar, not off the top of my head. I can't think of anything that would be a problem for us.
That's good to hear, that there's nothing in there at all that could hurt us going forward with any of our decisions.
Not at the top of my head.
Okay, thank you. Thanks very much. And I'd be pleased to move this report and hope that we do get a chance to speak at the province on this matter as it comes forward later, Mayor Burton.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hutchins?
Thank you. I'm too very much hopeful this bill will be moved forward and looking forward to it. Just for everybody's sake, could you go over the help, the local help so that people watching can understand that aspect? I think that's going to be very useful for people to use. So I think that repeating that would be very useful.
Sure. A local planning appeal support center would be established to provide the public with free advice on the appeal process. The tribunal would be directed to streamline hearings through things like case management, conferences, and strict hearing timelines.
Do we know, I guess it's too early perhaps, but do we know what they mean by streamlining the process?
Through your worship to Councillor Hutchins, we don't have the regulations, or there's still some pieces that are missing that we need to have.
One streamlining that was in the slides, Councillor, which I think leaps out, is doing away with cross-examination. That'd be a pretty big streamliner right there. Councillor O'Meara.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one question, well, two questions, but on this issue about the OMB. Do we know how many appeals we've received at the town because of the legislation coming forward?
Through you, Mayor Burton, I do not have the numbers on that, but I could provide that information.
Would they be 1 or 2? Would they be closer to 10? I mean, what kind of a scale are we seeing the development community start to mobilize and work against us before this has come out?
I believe there's about 4 or 5 appeals that have come in, so
Okay.
in that magnitude.
And I guess I know that we don't know when the transition rules are going to come forward, but I guess how are they able to put forward these appeals? And I guess I don't know enough of them, but are they vexatious in nature, or is it just because of this legislation coming through, or I'm just not sure how they're able to put forward these appeals without either the timeline being gone that council's made a decision at, or else them appealing a decision that we've made. So I'm not sure how they're bringing forward these appeals outside of those two parameters that I'm aware of.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, they're bringing those appeals forward because the time period has expired, the ones that I'm aware of. So they've reached their 120 or 180 days, and so they're appealing because of a lack of a decision.
So they were working in cooperation with us, and then all of a sudden decided to end that cooperation and just launch an appeal then?
That's right. In discussions, it has been specifically because of the legislation and not knowing what the transition requirements are.
Sure.
To protect their interests, they've indicated they filed those appeals.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. And then one just follow up in terms of the Conservation Act information. We had the benefit of this at Regional Council as well, of an update. And one aspect that I don't think was clear, but that I know I had heard from some of my residents in terms of going forward in dealing with Conservation Halton on development applications, and there seemed to be a subjectiveness to what is required, what's not required, what studies are and what studies aren't, and I don't think I saw any of changes around those parameters that have come through, and I know that regionally they said they would incorporate that in the HAP submission, so I just wanted to raise that again at a town level, that was something that I didn't see come through, but perhaps if those conversations can be carried on forward, that would be great.
Through your worship to Councillor O'Meara, it's my understanding we are still working on a HAP submission to provide to the province. Yeah, and in addition, we don't have the regulations yet. I don't know how much detail would be provided to provide more clarification on the requirements the Conservation Authority are going to have to reviewing applications.
Yeah, I appreciate that, through your worship, and I know there's a lot more to come out, but just to keep top of mind at times, I think predictability is a big thing in everyone's world, so as long as those unfold, if we can keep that top of mind. Thank you, your worship.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Green.
Through you, your worship, to the councillor. One of the things that's currently under review by the region, the 4 area municipalities, including the CAOs, are involved in this, is the current MOU between the region, the area municipalities, and conservation. One of the things that has been of great concern at the table, particularly with the CAOs, is what is seen as creep in terms of responsibility, and where in fact is that legislative authority, or is it they have just migrated in? So that is top of the mind. In fact, our next key meeting is in September.
Anyone else? Councillor Lischina.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think it's just a clarification for me. So the Local Planning and Appeal Support Center is strictly for the OMB, the new name for it. So it's not to help people who have difficulty dealing with conservation authorities, which seems to be just as complex and difficult to go through, as Councillor O'Meara had mentioned. So there is no help for residents in this new proposed framework.
Through you, Mayor Burton, that's correct. The center is only for the local, to help with the local appeals planning tribunal, not the conservation authorities.
Councillor Giddings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Further to Councillor Lischina's question, is it I know the details are sketchy so far. Is that viewed as a 1-800-HELP-ME hotline, or is it like a regional storefront facility staffed with planners and lawyers? Do you have any more details on that?
Through you, Mayor Burton, there hasn't been any details provided, but my understanding is that it is based on the Human Rights Tribunal model. They have a support center that is centrally based, and they would provide legal services, and in this case as well, planners that would be available to provide planning advice.
For both sides, I would assume. So a group of neighbors or a residents association could make an appointment and...
Yes, there's, they would have, the province hasn't said what the criteria would be at this time, but presumably it would be open to anyone.
It's going to be fun. Thanks.
Councillor Chisholm.
Thank you, Your Worship. The transition seems to be a concern that I keep reading up here. With the City of Toronto, they've made a motion to ensure that this happens with respect to provision limiting the transition period. So after the first reading, everything hopefully would kick in. Would we not, as a council, consider doing the same thing as a motion with respect to stronger language instead of saying the province should? Is that what we're saying in our language?
If you pass the recommendation before you, staff and I will be authorized to endorse and push forward the same idea.
Good. Thank you, Your Worship.
So can I turn that interest of yours into a motion?
Absolutely.
And can I get a second? Councillor Elgar? Oh, I'm sorry, I turned it around. Seconder I was looking for is Councillor Chisholm. Councillor Elgar, I temporarily forgot that you wanted to move it. So moved by Councillor Elgar, seconded helpfully by Councillor Chisholm. I would ask you to provide a recorded vote just to help out with the fact that I think it's unanimous, and it'll empower us to say something stronger. So to be recognized in support of the motion, please rise to be named. Councillor Lischina, Councillor Adams, Councillor Grant, Councillor Knoll, Councillor Lapworth, Councillor Elgar, Councillor Hutchins, Councillor Giddings, Councillor Chisholm, Councillor O'Meara, and Mayor Burton. I declare the motion carried unanimously, and I thank you all very much for that. We have no confidential discussion items. There are no advisory committee minutes. You have your information items circulated electronically, and your status of outstanding issues the same. As I understand it, I'm not sure, Madam Clerk, why this is here. Because there is no. So there is no new business. Does anyone have any new business? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk. We now come to regional reports and question period regarding town boards and advisory committees. And requests for reports. Well, then how about consideration and reading of the bylaws? Councillor Knoll and Councillor Lischina, as printed, this is the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of a meeting of council. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much for your time and attention. That completes the agenda. And it's been great working with you, and we're adjourned.